So where we left off last video, I was using the info panel to check my images. So CMYK, effective PPI is the main number we need to be paying attention to. It should be above 250 DPI or at 200 DPI at the very least. I mean, I wouldn't go any further than that. 300 is technically the correct PPI to use, pixels per inch to use, but if it goes to 250, I find with my own personal experience that 250 is not a problem. But I can always size this one down. This one's actually big enough where it shouldn't be a problem if I just go ahead and size it down. I can see a line here on the bottom of this, so I might actually click this and use this tool and just soften that. There we go. So this is the gradient feather tool. It basically feathered out the bottom of my image. If I Command Z, I can put it back where it was, but it feathered out the bottom of my image, so there's not a hard line there anymore. And it might not be a bad idea to do that to some of these other ones, but I even should be checking my Havertrails logo. So it's in RGB. Its effective PPI is quite high. It's at 2000 something. So you can control click on it and do edit with just right in the actual canvas itself. You don't necessarily have to go through the links panel. There's a couple different ways to do it. But if we go into Photoshop, we can do image mode, CMYK, image mode, CMYK color, and then Command S, and that will save it over the other file, I believe. And if it didn't, it probably saved its own file, so I can actually go into the links panel, push relink, make sure I'm in the right images folder, and I'm going to put it on list. And this is the new one that I saved out, I guess, today at 5:43 p.m. So yeah, sometimes when you save stuff out of these programs, I think it's really confusing. If you're not paying super close attention, you think that you're saving over the old file when it saves out a PSD, or you think that you're saving it in a certain location and it ends up in another location. This might be just a Mac problem and not so much a PC problem, but just when you're saving stuff, it can get a little confusing. But you can use this relink button to update that link. And so if I go back into the info panel and I check it out, it should be updated to the new CMYK file, which it is. If we zoom in on that, let's just make sure it looks good up close. Okay, Command 0 to zero out our canvas a little bit. Yeah, this is all looking pretty good. I didn't do it to all of these, but you should go around and change all the image sizes to, CMYK. Make sure that so you have to open all these up in Photoshop and change them all to CMYK, and you have to make sure the effective PPI is around 250 or higher on every image. All of the ones that I have should be high enough resolution. This one's a little bit low, but I might even have a little wiggle room with this one to make it slightly smaller, which will help the resolution a little bit. 247, that's pretty close to 250, so that'll print okay. But let's just pretend that I went in on every one of these and opened them, either control click, with the white arrow tool on the actual image and did edit with, wherever that's at, let's see. Edit with Photoshop, or you can go into the links panel and do edit with Photoshop. And then when you bring it in, you go image mode, CMYK color. Another good thing to do, especially if your images are a little bit dull or the contrast isn't very good in them, do a Command L to bring up the levels panel and just kind of make some of the colors pop a little bit. So bring the whites, the lighter colors, the whites, and this is the midtones, so you can kind of mess with those if you want. But it's always kind of, especially if it's a dark image, to bring the whites slightly over to the left, bring the blacks in a little bit, maybe bring these over to the left just slightly, and maybe even bump this up even more to make it a brighter image. And then do a Command S. Let's go into in here, and we'll see if it did make it lighter. So I mean, doing that to some of the darker images is always, I actually do that to every single image that I work with. I will change the levels on it. I will change it to CMYK. I will definitely make sure it's at, the right resolution inside of InDesign through the info panel. And once you get your images dialed in, including logos, you'll be ready to basically export this out for Brightspace. So one thing you might want to do is go into your links panel and click here at the very top link and push shift and click at the very bottom link to get everything. Oops, I didn't get everything. Let me shift. So we can get all of the links in the links panel selected using shift. Clicking on the top one, pushing and holding down shift, scrolling down all the way to the bottom one and clicking on the bottom one, and then that will select everything. And then let's just go to this menu up here, go to utilities and copy links to, and just make sure we're in our right, so documents, and then we need to go into Graphic Design 350, right here, Graphic Design 2, Mary Brochure Project, and then we want to go into our images folder. And if you don't have an images folder, make one and name it images and get inside of it and then push choose. And that will copy every single image that you used, because some of them might be on your desktop, some of them might be in your downloads folder, some of them might be in your documents where they're supposed to be, but some of them might not be where they're supposed to be. So a good thing to do is to copy them through the, select them all in your links panel and then go to utilities and copy links to through this little stacked line menu up here. And that's always a good idea to do that so that you have all of your images and links and everything that you've used in your document in the images folder within your document folder, my Mary Brochure 2020 folder. So that's pretty good. Once we get all that kind of squared away, we can actually do our file package. Make sure you save, obviously Command S or File Save before you do anything. And then we'll do, let's do a file export. Click on your brochure project, make sure that this is going to go into your brochure project folder. And let's save out a PDF print. When you go to package this for Brightspace, it will create a high quality PDF, but I'm not sure if it has bleeds included. So I want to show you how to make a PDF with bleeds included. So we do a file export, make sure we go into the correct folder, make sure it's on Adobe PDF print, and then push save. And then we kind of want to go into the marks and bleeds section and use document bleed settings. So this is the magic little checkbox that's sort of buried in this marks and bleeds section right here, and push export. So if we go back into Finder and we actually go into this folder, we can take a look at this brochure that I exported out. And this one does have the bleeds in there. And the reason I can tell that is because there's way more space here than when I look in my document with it. If I push W, there's that extra little space there with, off to the side of this logo. If I push W, it's actually fairly small here, but if I look in my Acrobat document, it's fairly large. So it is, and if we hover down here, we can see it's 11.25 by 8.75, and that is with the bleeds included, because normally it would be 8.5 by 11, and so with the bleeds, it's a little bit bigger. So that one way of telling is just hovering down here to see if your bleeds are included. Okay, so that's how you export out the PDF with the bleeds included, and that's the PDF that you would print from, and then you can trim it so that you can have your images go all the way to the edge of your brochure. So if we do a file package now, we can finally get this ready for Brightspace. Fonts, images and links, you can go through here and try to read through this stuff, but really you can probably just leave it all at the default. Push package. It wants me to save, so I say yes, save. And then it is high quality print modified, so maybe that modified might actually mean that it's going to leave that use document bleed settings checked, which is actually kind of nice. Make sure this is putting it in the right spot. Like, this is not even going to go in the right folder at all. So when you go to package, just make sure that it's like trying to put it in the right folder. That wasn't going in the right folder at all. I'm just going to put it inside of this folder. I mean, technically I could probably just zip this up, but we'll use the file package feature just because it gets the fonts in there too. So when I go to open your document, if I don't have your fonts, I can easily install them. We don't need the IDML file, so if this is checked, uncheck it. We want the print, we want the links, graphic links, we want the fonts. So just keep all these things, keep this here. We do want a PDF, and then package this up. Make sure it's in the right folder that it's going into. So you want to check that before you do before you push package. But anyway, so if I go into Finder and here it is. This is the one that they made. This is the one that was made by the package feature. Oops. Because it always puts this folder on the end. It names them with the folder on the end. So if I go in here, I have my document fonts, I have all my links, which we've been naming images, but links is another way of doing that. We have our InDesign file, our PDF file, and I think this one it does have the bleeds in it because before we exported out a PDF separately out of the file package before we used file package, and we actually checked that box, and I think it just saved it when we did a file package, which is nice. And then one other thing I want you to do a file. Actually, I don't know if I required that. I guess I'll have to see if I required a JPEG. So I'm looking in here. So make a zip folder, fonts used, InDesign file, images, any other links, PDF file, 300 ppi with bleeds included of your brochure, and then zip that and put that in Brightspace. So I didn't ask for a JPEG file. And then you'll print from the PDF file with the bleeds included. You can send that to the Media Reprographics. Florin's in town, Florin's Printing, they do a really good job. You don't even have to explain to them how to print a brochure properly because they already know how to do it. I'm worried the people at the library probably might not know how to do it, but okay, so we are good to go then. If I go in here, this is all we need. We need the document fonts, the links, your brochure, your InDesign document, and your PDF with bleeds included. One way to check is to double click on that, hover down here, and if it's a little bit bigger than 8.5 by 11, then that means it has your bleeds in it. And another way of doing that is file, export. We want the PDF, save, replace, and we just want to go to this mark and then make sure this is checked. But I don't need to do that. I just canceled it because we have everything we need. So if I go back into this project, go to this one, which is where our packaged folder is with everything that we need, and our bleed included PDF. We'll do a control click on this and compress. This is how you do it on a Mac. I think you right click and push zip or something on a PC, if I remember correctly. If you're not quite sure how to do it on a PC, you might just have to look up how to make a zip file. But I think it's pretty easy on a PC. I think you just right click and push zip folder or something like that. So this is the zip file that you need to bring into Brightspace by November 20th. Don't forget, by November 11th, I'm hoping that you guys will have a really good start on your brochure. So, that's coming up soonish. So just make sure you're paying attention. Hopefully in the discussions area by November 11th, which is not this next week, but the next week, I'll put the discussion in here. But this is where we're going to be putting in the discussions area, and then we'll be giving people feedback on their designs. So try to have something by week 11 to show in the discussions area, and also be prepared to give people some feedback on their designs as well by November 11th.